Hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Happy Sunday to you and your family. Hope you're having an amazing and a wonderful weekend. We're taking a look here at Bitcoin, obviously seeing what's going on. We're going to talk about this arrow that I have on the chart, this little up and down pattern. A lot of it has to do with the fair value gap and the weekly high, open, low, close. We'll talk about that and much more. Make sure you understand full well what's going on. It's going to be somewhat comprehensive, so I would recommend you watch all the way through just so you can kind of get fully aware of what's going on, because it's really not just one little thing that's going to cause the price to go in one direction, right? It is a lot of little things that we want to factor in. So we'll take a look at that and much more. So if you are new to the channel, I'm not a financial advisor. I love to teach people to trade. I hope you can learn something here today. If you do want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is a website. Link down below. We have some phenomenal traders over there taking some healthy profits from our Premium Plus group, XRP, BCH, Litecoin, and BNB. All taking some healthy profits on Friday. And then, of course, again, small stuff, but still big in the big picture, is our swing trades. We're at about 22% for Bitcoin in roughly 2 days. We had a nice little swing trade for Ethereum. In 6 days, we took 35%. I think that was a long, and the other one was a Bitcoin short. Those are all just fully automated trades that you can follow if you'd like. Again, all available through the website there. Oh, very last thing too, be sure to check this out. Of course, BingX, obviously up through July 31st, we have this available benefit, $100 plus 50 if you deposit 50 and trade with 3,000 USDT. Super simple. The main reason why I like to talk about that though is just so you know, because KuCoin, Bybit, even BitGet, for example, in the US and Canada, they went pretty much full KYC. So a lot of our members were impacted, so thank you, BingX, for providing that to our community. Greatly appreciate that. We have trading competitions coming soon. That will be next month once our BitGet competition is done. By the way, we got some monsters over here. Look at this, 271% from this user, 109%, 70%. I like this name too, BitGet and Burgers. Good for you, man. That's awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out. What we want to talk about first is, again, big picture, the whole well, let's start with the back end stuff first of all. Okay, so we got CME futures here. We got the candlestick closing on Sunday. That was July. Correction, no, sorry. Actually, no, it looks like it's open. There was no gap, actually. Cool. Okay. That solves itself, basically. There's no CME gap that needs to get filled. The price action closed on Friday at roughly about 30,200, and it opened today at about 30,300. So no issues there. Bitcoin dominance, we want to take a quick peek at this here. This, of course, over the weekend is not super relevant, but it's important to note that Bitcoin dominance is coming up while the price is sustaining itself. Okay, so it's sustaining itself at 30,000. What that tells us is that there's a lot more altcoin dominance, of course, occurring. Now, this isn't significant. It's been kind of range bound here, but for the most part, we kind of got this somewhat stagnation, but also better increase in altcoins. A lot more altcoins are starting to surge. So not by any stretch are we seeing altcoin season, but it is something to be mindful of. Pay attention to Ethereum. If Ethereum can continue to outperform Bitcoin, that's usually the first initial catalyst that we want to look out for. Okay, so again, that's kind of what we're at there. Let's take a look at the big picture here, though, with the weekly. Actually, let's just go ahead and start with the monthly here, and we'll jump into High Block Capital here next. So on the monthly, we can see that RSI has been maintaining itself above 50, so we're still tentatively bullish there. Good news is that pulls back a little bit. We should still be in good shape. I still feel confident that 28 to 29,000 will be the lowest point we'll see. We've got a convergence here on the MACD as well, implying that further downside is less likely. So this shift in momentum, this kind of goes hand in hand with the 4-year cycle, or more like 4.5 to 5-year cycle at this point. I made a 4-year cycle video. It's actually on my homepage if you're curious about it. It holds true for the most part, but it was extended because of all the inflation. That's my personal opinion, but that we didn't experience inflation prior to now in the last 12 years, so that's what we're seeing now. Anyways, when we see this here coming up with the MACD, it's converging strong. We looking good there. We got the moving averages all staying above 26/28,000. So they're all right in this little range here. This is positive, very, very good stuff. Okay, so even though the 20 is coming down, we're above the 50, which is sustaining itself at 25.3. Sorry, I misspoke. 26.5, right in that 26,000 range. So heaven forbid the price comes down to 28. We might see a wick down to 26. I think that would be a great place to fill our bags. I hope that happens before the next leg up so we can go ahead and fill our positions. I got a lot of limit orders down below the current price action for spot, and I recommend possibly you do the same. That being said, looking at the weekly here, we can see we also are positive here. We're above 50, below 70 in the RSI. The money flow index is coming up once more. We can see the MACD is still converging and not even showing us it wants to diverge just yet. Furthermore, too, we're above all 3 moving averages, all averaging themselves out at that 27,000 range, minus the 50 at 23. That's going to swing up. And what that does is that gives us ultimately a very good confirmation that in the coming weeks, roughly probably 2 or 3 months from now, we'll see a natural golden cross where the price action swings upwards. So I think that will be kind of the catalyst there. I feel like sometime later this year in October, November, we're going to see a pretty strong shift upwards. Between now and then, sideways and down, I would say is kind of the realisticness of it. All right, so let's go ahead and jump on over to High Block Capital now that we know kind of the foundational stuff. What does the weekly look like? It looks pretty good. Same with the monthly. What we want to look here at is, of course, the growing amount of selling pressure. So in other words, this isn't selling pressure per se. This is just more so people trying to sell than buy. We still have that consistency there. And that happens when the price is higher than it should be or has been passed. In other words, if we take a look at the price action here, we can kind of see that when the price was really high here, we had this inflow where a lot more asks were being provided than bids. In other words, people trying to sell more than buy. Okay, so it's a very common characteristic. So that being said, if we take a look at this history and this overextension when this price, the asks got higher and higher, it was when the price went up like this, okay? The price inevitably came down and continued to make lower lows and lower highs afterwards. Concurrent with that, you can see the whale activity was starting to dissipate, starting to pick up again now, which leads me to believe that we are tentatively at the bottom because whales have a tendency of buying the bottom or essentially inflating that price action. And just if we look at its history, anytime the price comes way down, whales are super active. So whales seem to get more active at lower 30,000s than they do upper 31,000. Interesting coincidence? I think not. We take a look here at the actual, this is basically the longs here. Global longs here, at least based on BingX for the moment, we can see here is essentially looking more long-sided than short-sided. But again, we got equal amount of shorts as well. So these are longs and shorts being opened, not closed. So we have more longs and shorts being opened and closed right now at this level than we did before. So what does that tell us? Well, let's go ahead and see. We have the average true range here so far with the open interest at about 30,300. No surprise there. That makes sense considering that's roughly a point of contention. That's a Fibonacci retracement level. We'll look at that here soon. We take a look at though here, we can see 30,400. There's some longs are kind of underwater. We got net shorts, of course. They're all shorting at 30,300. So we're pretty much even at this point. So shorts are uneven, or sorry, they're break even rather. And longs are slightly underwater, at least the late longs are. We caught an early long ourselves here. If you take a look at my BingX, this is just my personal account. You can follow if you'd like. This is public. Of course, this is the trade history, but our current position, we're up 1%. Boo-hoo. We got in at 30,250. Our take profit is 30,500, just to give you perspective there. Because I'll show you here in a minute. We're looking to kind of fill that fair value gap and then likely further downside. That kind of coincides with what we've seen here previously. But again, congrats to our 38 copiers for making a decent amount of money there. Well done on that. I'm happy to help you, of course. Okay, so let's look at this here. This is what I want to talk about. I wouldn't say it's an elephant in the room, but it's definitely something that's relevant. It's the relevant in the room. That was dumb, I'm sorry. Okay, let's take a look here. So let's get rid of this here. Let's take a quick peek at the fair value gap. So if you take a look at the fair value gap, you can see that the price shot down so hard that we have this range here that hasn't been filled yet. In other words, there's a lot of profit to be taken here from the longs, essentially. So if you longed right here, they're going to go ahead and fill that gap. In other words, the fair value gap is something that's really important to recognize. It's something that kind of helps you understand that there's these holes that need to get filled. That's why we look at the CME gaps, because inevitably that will get filled eventually because greed is a very real thing and people are in profit, right? There's a lot of profit to be taken and they need to take it. Okay, so there's that profit zone there, and it goes upwards about 30,600. So to me, a nice safe spot there at 30,500, 0.618 Fibonacci retracement level is an ideal place to take profit, at least for a long position. That's exactly why I feel that the price is going to reject off that fair value gap and come down. If we take a look at the weeklies, we can see here currently we got the 1 week open at 30,600. No coincidence that the fair value gap is averaging itself out right there. And of course, we got this support here with a 1 week close at 30,150. So it makes much more sense for the price to come up here to fill this gap and then to leg down here to the 29,000 range. Again, I'm still slightly more biased towards downside at this immediate moment than I am upside, but I feel like we're probably going to see that get filled first. If it doesn't, it's all good. The price comes down, we average our price down and add to our position on spot and then buy the dip, right? Again, there's reasons why that's beneficial, but again, that's just something to note. All right, so again, I know I'm jumping around, but I wanted to explain that so you know kind of what's going on here. So we'll just remove that guy for the moment. And once again, I do send out price prediction daily. Those are available on our Twitter. Obviously, make sure to like, follow, and subscribe here. Greatly appreciate that. We also have a Telegram that's pretty much mirrors the same information so you can have good technical and fundamental data. With Bitcoin, though, what we want to pay attention to here, first of all, we got a doji candle forming. Again, this is a weekend, so it's not super important or relevant, but it does imply that we should see a reversal. Again, that slight push up to 30,500, 30,700 maybe. It could continue higher from there. I'd love to even see it continue going, but there is a lot of volume at this range here. We're starting to build that resistance, if you will, and that volume is profiled right there at about 30,600. Okay, so a lot of reasons why that gap could be filled and we see a rejection off that point. Okay, so taking a look at the RSI, we can see going sideways here, nothing too crazy. We haven't broken below 50, so we're still technically bullish. All right, I like to bunny ears that because it just, you never attach yourself to a certain bias. There's people that have been shorting from 15,000 getting just demolished, right? And I feel sorry for them because they get stuck in a mindset that we are truly doing this or that, right? The important thing is to recognize that the market's always changing and to adjust with it and to know what they're doing before they do it. Okay, because this is really just everyone with money is making these movements. We're not touching it, right? Anyway, so what I'm getting at is we're above that. We have this bias right now that we're still tentatively bullish. We haven't broken down, even though we are diverging technically. We're not really doing all that much because the price is just averaging itself out. This has been probably one of the longest times that Bitcoin's been range bound for a while. Okay, so breakout is inevitable soon. We saw our previous breakout when we were range bound. It's shaping up to be a very similar circumstance. Okay, so just something to pay attention to there. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's get to the nitty gritty here and call it a day. The long story short here is the daily is still tentatively bullish, and we shouldn't expect the price just to drop like a rock because of it. But again, I've shared with you the reasons why I think we should drop at least initially for a little bit. We do have some good support in the 28,000 range, by the way, with those moving averages. We can see that here as well with our 20-day simple moving average, or sorry, correction, 20 is up there. The 50 is right here at about 28.5. And I think 28.5 is probably going to be the lowest point in which we see, because that is essentially an area in which we saw a lot of previous price action. I think there might even be, if I'm not mistaken, was there a fair value gap right there at 28.5? Yeah, right, 28.4. So just to clarify here, there is a larger fair value gap that needs to get filled because the price wicked up too hard. So it would make sense for the price to inevitably wick down to this level and then come back up. So I've got a pretty large buy order myself at 28,500 on my spot. Just full disclosure so you understand that. And that's going to be a place I'm going to probably go pretty hard on long positions at that point. I don't think we're going to see 25,000 again. Some people will subscribe to that thought process. I don't. And again, do what you will. Use your own risk tolerance. But this would make sense to get that filled first. All right, so again, that's kind of where we're at there. The last thing we kind of want to summarize with is the 4 hour and the 1 hour. I know this is getting long-winded. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and see here. So the 4 hour, we are seeing stochastics telling us we are ready for the price to continue upwards. So we have more potential momentum shift to the upside. We've also got a MACD that's trying to converge. It hasn't yet. I wouldn't buy into that just yet, but it is telling us here if the price continues to swing upwards, we could very well see this range of 30,750 get hit once more. Okay. Now, typical Bitcoin, it won't do what you want it to do. It's not going to come up here and come right back down. Probably not very likely, but it will probably come up here and do one of these aggressive things and shoot back down because we've seen tons and tons of manipulation in the market. Okay, so there's no other way to put it. It's no sugarcoating. The market is manipulated, and that's just the way it goes. You got to kind of work within those ranges. That's why fair value gaps and weekly closes are important, because that's what the big dogs are using. That's not what we're using. Obviously, we use it because they are, but generally speaking, they're looking to fill those profit targets and make money, right? The only way that we can make money is if we kind of understand what they're doing, which is the whole point of this. All right, last but not least, TD sequential on the hourly, not a lot to note. We want to take a look at Ichimoku cloud. We're underneath the cloud here. Yes, we're fairly range bound and it's less relevant, but the relevant in the room, sorry, I don't know why that's so funny. The elephant in the room is essentially that we are underneath the cloud here, right? And the key takeaway is that we don't want to trade into that. So while we do have a long position open, and it would make sense for the price to travel within the cloud and kind of reject, there is a good chance that the price may just drop from here, okay? So please, 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 if you follow me over here, like these other 30, whoever your 38, my 38 copy traders are currently, be careful and try not to go super ham with your trades. I mean, just because I have an 83% success rate doesn't mean this trade isn't going to go the way we want it to, right? But again, I've explained the reasons why I think it will, but it's not always the case. Needless to say, you don't typically try to take long positions into a massive cloud like this. But again, I feel comfortable with everything I've shared with you that we will probably hit that level and turn around. So those are my thoughts. Tell me what you will. Comment below if you have some other ideas. I'd love to hear it. And like, subscribe, follow if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out, of course, this new event, exclusive event, only available till July 31st. Links down below for that as well. And obviously help us grow our Twitter. Greatly appreciate that. But thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way through the end, you're a trooper. You've probably been watching me for a while, and you probably appreciate what I do. If you skip to the end now and you're that person, you might want to reevaluate things, because there's no free lunch in trading. Okay, most people, even if they're really good and you follow them, you make some profits. You need to learn how to do that yourself and work within your own risk tolerance. Okay, so please educate yourself on becoming a better trader. I hope you have a great rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your weekend. We'll see you in tomorrow's video. Take good care. Thanks for joining me.